primary thing I focus on with every painting is to capture the play of light on the scene. It could be the warm, low-angle light near sunrise or sunset, the harsh light of midday when shadows are reduced to a minimum, or the diffuse light of a cloudy or foggy day. In every situation, there's something beautiful to observe in how light illuminates the landscape. The challenge of catching that particular light in mixtures of paint on canvas is what keeps me coming back to my easel. My painting routine is a mixture of painting on site, or en plein air if you will, and in my studio using sketches and photographs. Often I'll work back and forth between the actual location and the studio. I might finish in the studio, or I might return to the location to paint some more. Finally, I will ignore all the sketches and photos and finish the painting by letting it tell me what it needs. The places shown in this exhibit include Maine, California, England, and various locations in southern New England nearer to my home in Rhode Island.
Here. We want to get this one home too? It's up to you. I can take it, or I don't know. Why don't we ship it to you? Right, we got it. I just don't want to. I don't want to strip it for the show. Yeah, let's do that. We'll check it.
Pudding stone is the name of the variety of conglomerate rock that makes up the landscape around Satchewess Beach near where I live. There's a large erratic boulder sitting on the rocks at the west end of the beach. It's a subject that I had in mind to paint for years. The views of the boulder when viewed from the beach are nice, but when I walked around it and saw it with the beach and water stretching beyond, I knew I'd found the view I wanted to paint. This 11 by 14 inch painting was started en plein air and finished in my studio using some reference photos I had taken. One of the things I thought about while painting this was to let my brush strokes mimic the round stones that make up the pudding stone. I also thought about capturing the haze of the humid air blowing in off the Atlantic. The famous landmark known as Hanging Rock is off in the distance to the right along the horizon, but I've intentionally left it somewhat obscured in the mist. Jewels of the Woods, Great Diamond Island. This is an 18 by 24 inch painting of the woods on Great Diamond Island in Casco Bay, Maine. My wife and I visited the island for an anniversary celebration a few years ago. Here we have a scene so typical of northern New England, with trees somehow managing to grow in a rocky landscape where not much else beyond moss can grow. The title, Jewels of the Woods, was inspired by the great American Impressionist painter Childe Hassam, whose painting titled The Jewel Box, Old Lime is in the collection of the National Academy of Design. Hassam's painting is a rocky wooded landscape with dappled light filtered through the trees, falling on rocks and ground, lending a jewel-like glitter effect to the scene. In my painting, I've focused on the contrast between the cool tones in the shaded foreground and the warmer tones coming from beyond the little hill where the sun is shining. In particular, I like the little stand of trees at the top, which are bathed in so much light that even their shaded sides have warm tones. Tiverton Footbridge. This painting is a 14.5 by 12 inch oil on linen mounted on panel. It was mostly painted en plein air, with finishing touches applied in my studio. The location is in Tiverton, Rhode Island, within the Mill Pond Shops, which are a group of retail shops in historic buildings along Route 77, just south of the Four Corners intersection. I painted this one while conducting a one-day painting workshop with the Westport Art Group. I had to get the perspective right with the image squeezed between the two buildings. And as I recall, the stream flowing under the footbridge was very low when I painted it. So I took a little artistic license and made the water just high enough to show it flowing over the small cement dam. Lookma is the painting that was featured on the postcard distributed by the True Grit Art Gallery for this exhibit. This little 10 by 8 inch painting is one of my latest, and this is the first time it's been shown in a gallery. To compose this painting, I had to look through some photographs I took of crowds of people at the beach. By enlarging the images on my computer, I was able to pick out this young girl showing off her handstands for her mother. This was at Satchwas Beach in Middletown, Rhode Island, not far from where I live. When you come to the gallery and see the actual painting before you, you may note that there are shiny bits showing through here and there. This is a result of painting on a panel covered with metal leaf, a method that I've just recently started exploring, and so far I'm pleased with the results. Rising Tide. This 30 by 24 inch oil on linen painting has an entirely different feeling when compared to the others we've seen so far. This is a view of weathered rocks on a foggy day along the shore at the Satchuous Point National Wildlife Refuge in Rhode Island. The light in these conditions is quite different from the light on a sunny day. All the exposed surfaces receive the same amount of diffuse light coming from throughout the sky. The shaded areas are to be found only in the crevices and undersides of the rocks. As the rocks recede away from the viewer, the details of their surfaces become less evident, and the contrasts of light and dark are minimized in the haze. The title, A Rising Tide, came to me when I was thinking about climate change, and in particular, rising sea levels. I've spent a lot of time around the ocean, both as a painter and as a windsurfer, and the effects of rising sea levels are something I've witnessed firsthand, with more frequent storms eroding further inland all the time. Even seemingly permanent rocks like these will be subjected to the power of the ocean as the waters rise over them. Tide Pool, Raw Weather. This 20 by 24 inch oil on linen painting is another example of one of my foggy gray scenes. Some of the things I was thinking about when I painted this were how the various rocks should have different shades of gray, some more ochre, some more purple, and some more green. I achieved this by mixing all the gray tones using only primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. No black or gray pigments were used in these paintings. I avoid using black paint in all of my paintings, and in so doing, the areas of darker value have more vibrancy. Another way I achieved variation in the tones of the rocks was by painting over a warm brown toned canvas, and then letting that brown show through, some areas with more and some areas with less. Another aspect of this painting that I concentrated on was painting the smooth surface of the tidal pool. Some parts are darker where the rocks are reflected, and we can actually see under the surface. The brighter water in the foreground is a mixture of the reflected cloudy sky with some suggestions of what's below the surface, and the water farther away in the tide pool is a little lighter, where all we see is the sky reflected.